As I reflected on this question, there's sort of two directions, so I'm going to go one and then another. The first is about closing congregations or potentially doing some other things. That's a hard question. I mean, it's just a hard question to hear because, as I've shared with you, my own experiences coming from a very small congregation, and the thought of closing the church where the cross that hangs up there is a memorial to my father, it just sort of rips at your heart. And that's just who I am, and so there's a part of me that often thinks, would we exhaust everything we could do to really make that place as viable and healthy as possible? And I think that's the place to begin with. And you can't ask that question if you really haven't spent time with the people there. Closing places or doing that sort of just off the top of your head or saying, and doing it all based on numbers, whether that be financial or people are there, in my mind are not ways that you deal with congregations or you're in relationship would be a better way to state that. That's really not what that's about. I think you need to be in relationships with those congregations, which answers the second part of the question is, if congregations is, the language we use is they just seem to worship the building and all of that, or they just become sort of a chapel, that really becomes the responsibility of those who are called to shepherd and work and resource with those folks. And you need to be in conversation with them. Part of my history is that we closed 2 churches in the geographical area where I serve now and where we started it. And I was a part of that whole process, and it was an incredible transformational process because we spent a long time around the table, folks who are part of both those faith communities, really going through our history, understanding, and then really doing our sense of discerning who God was calling us to in this sort of geographical area. They, as a faith community, moved to the place where they were wanting to close those 2 faith communities and then to begin a new faith community. So the faith community that is a part of starting has some of its earliest roots, its earliest DNA in doing that. Now the great news out of that, and this is just sort of one direction, is that it is an incredible, vibrant faith community today. And it's because they were able to make some choices, and I think most importantly, they became clear about who they were and who they believed God was calling them to be. That they've grown and that, there's a church that's debt-free and it's full and there's a school and all that sort of stuff. All of that really goes to the basis of those conversations and being clear about who they are and who God was calling them to be. So when it comes to dealing or working with congregations in terms about their future, I really think that really begins at the core of being in conversation and relationship with them to help them discern, help them assess, help them really find where God is calling them to be. Thanks, Van. This is a question that I clearly know that I've asked her to ask because I picked the question. But also it's the question that I've done it the 2 other times, and we'll see where the Lord leads me, but I'll answer all the way through. I think it's particularly important to address this and to be upfront with you from the beginning. As many of you know from reading my own bio and background and things like that, as I mentioned earlier, I'm the Vice President of the House of Deputy. I've served on or been involved with the Executive Council of the Episcopal Church for the last 9 years and been involved with many other things both provincially and nationally. You need to know that if God calls us for me to be your next bishop, that I am coming to Minnesota to be your bishop. I've told folks that I have over 500,000 miles banked already on Northwest Airlines, and I hope that's provided some careers for some of you. But I really would prefer to move those miles to my car and drive again. I'd really rather come and be a part of a place that I could really be in there, be a part of the community, to be a part of the fabric, and to be in relationship. I think one of the core values of a bishop, and I've had lots of conversations, but it's just really something that I believe wholeheartedly, is to be the pastor to the pastors. It's just something that after working on diocesan staffs with bishops and just having a lot of friends who are bishops and that, I just have to tell you that at the core, that's who I am. It's a part of that relational piece. So if I were called here, that would just be a number one priority, is to really be in relationship with those clergy, to be a pastor to them. I call everybody on their birthday in the congregation where I serve. I call everybody on their anniversary, whether I'm here and did so today or wherever, because that's part of being a pastor to the people that I'm called to serve now. Similar things would happen if I would come here, because I really would want to be in relationship with the clergy, want to be in relationship with the people here. And to do that, I have to be here. I have to be here, be a part of it, and to spend my time going other places, or traveling other places, takes me away from being a part of this diocese, this faith community, and those relationships. And I really believe, as your bishop, you really want your bishop, you need your bishop, you should have your bishop here with you to move and be with you and be in relationship with you. So I wanted to be clear and be authentic and be upfront with you, because it would be understandable to me if you would wonder why, because of the amount of travel and experience and things I've done on the larger church, that if called would be committed to be here and to be a part of the time and experience with you all here.